Hey again. So here's Cuento number 15. This one is inspired by one of the most important rhythms in Argentine folk music. Also, kind of plays around with one of the key rhythms of tango music, where they kind of constantly have 6/8 and 3/4 going on at the same time, or they go in and out of them a lot. The idea of this one is kind of to have this groove, eventually getting to this groove of and playing on the bass. I don't have an amp, but I'm not sure you can do that. So the idea is, having this doom doom ding boom dang going on throughout. But in order to get to that groove, what I'd like to do is I'd kind of like to trick the audience maybe into maybe the downbeat is somewhere else, or maybe we're in 3/4 or whatnot. So I'd like to start off with and then so that's kind of what I want to try to do. It'll be a little bit slower than that. And here we have the trumpet on the up stems, the G and F, and then trombone on the D's down here. And it'll be the same here. I just wrote it in bass clef so we can see the. It'll be 4 measures of the D. You guys are staying up top the same. I have 2 measures of C. And then we're going to switch it. So on this final E flat measure, we're just going to switch the order of the D and F. It's going to be on beat 2, and the G is going to be on beat 3. And that's going to go into the next phrase the same. So it's got switched here. See here how these two top lines are opposite, but it starts in the 7th bar, which is the last bar of the phrase. And then here, when we get to the last bar of the phrase, we switch it back to how it was in the beginning. That's the idea. And we'll play that, we'll vamp it. And the idea is this is a sax feature. So the saxophone, after we played through this a little bit, not too long, because it'll be pretty easy to get this feel in the listener's head and body. So maybe going through this twice will be enough, but it's not like I want you to start, at the top of one of the A sections. This is going to be super rubato. These durations are very, very, they're relative to one another, and they're not in time with A. They're not supposed to be in time with A. They're just supposed to be kind of over top, at your own leisure. I wrote here, only observe rest the first time, meaning, so you play this line and you take a rest for as long as you want. Then you repeat. Then you're playing along. You ignore it and you continue on to this second measure here. Now you're at the first time of this rest, so you observe it. Rest for as long as you want. If you want to, if the groove, you want to hear the groove more or whatever, musically, artistically, you decide how long this rest will be. And of course you repeat back. And you play this again and again. You ignore the rest and you move on to this measure. Here's the rest. Repeat. Play again, play again. This is kind of just you play these faster Ds and you kind of decide, you just play as many as you want, and you kind of decide when you want to go up to the E flat. D, C, another rest, so you got another repeat, back to the beginning of this, and you keep adding measure by measure. So every time you repeat, you do play this measure again, and eventually you get to the final measure, this A, B flat, G, into your improvisation, in the vein of this B. So it's not that you go into a jazz solo over these chords, which are basically like a D minor, C minor, E flat, major, 7 kind of thing, but that's not important. So it's not into a jazz solo, it's into more of a long note, not necessarily playing with the groove or playing with the groove. And at that point, when the solo starts, it'd be really great if the trumpet and trombone kind of like fade out their part. So it's just me, Quinn, and Dustin playing during his solo, and for a good amount of his solo. So it kind of like as soon as Dustin gets into the solo, or maybe even here during this transition, you guys fade out those notes on 2 and 3, so they're not in our way or being accented too much. I'm going to still be playing them, but they won't be as prominent if you guys are out. And Dustin will solo. Dustin will cue his cue to end the solo, and to cue the end of the song out is he's going to play something of this A section. We haven't decided yet, exactly as is, and we're just going to play this. We're going to play this one phrase last time, just 7 bars. As soon as Dustin, it's obviously he's playing exactly with me, maybe on these 2 and 3, or maybe the roots. He's going to play along with me and Quinn for 7 more bars, and then we all have to kind of pay attention because this is the 7th bar. See how I have this E flat here, 7th bar, last bar of the phrase. Dustin's been playing with me, and then we come to this last bar where we hit this E flat, and on beat 3, the trumpet and trombone come back in right then and there, and we end right here with a quick, we all kind of play together, we hear the note, and then it's out. No sort of like fade out, just out. No crescendo, decrescendo, nothing. We're just, and that's the vibe. Coolio. 16 is a couple things. It's a trombone feature, and it's inspired by this rhythm here, which is the cascara, popular in Afro-Cuban music. And this cascara is based on a 3/2 son clave. It could be a rumba clave, but so that's the inspiration. But I don't necessarily want to play like a Latin tune here. The experiment is to take something highly rhythmic and to kind of liquid pulsify it. And I guess what I mean by that is adding water. Just kidding. But we're gonna, play busily, percussive. We're gonna play the rhythm, but I would like to kind of expand and shrink the measures and the time. Ding 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 ding. Maybe adding some triplets in there and that sort of. So it'll be like a really fun, communication, rhythm and time, tempo communication between Quinn and I mostly. And then on top of that, what I think would be really cool is to have the trumpet and sax play the clave above that, and again, not in a very strict sort of way. Not if I'm going bat da da gat da gat 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 gat, you're not going gat 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 beep doop 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 doop. No, but like D D D D D D D D D, anything. Just like elongating it, not matching up with Quinn and I per se. That's the idea. And then also what I want to try to do is, and you can, the clave players also, instead of, the clave has 5 pitches in it, instead of playing the same 5 pitches or playing something melodic that always comes back with the downbeat with the same pitch, if you're playing something that has 5 notes in it, you're always going to have the downbeat is always going to be the same note. So maybe trying to find patterns that have 3 notes instead of 5, so that way the downbeat changes every measure for 3 measures or whatever you choose. So that's the idea. And I want to stick within F minor. I haven't thought about if it's natural 6 or flat 6, but we'll let that be open. But other than that, I'd rather it be either F Aeolian or F Dorian, because the idea here isn't about harmonic or atonality or harmonic exploration. It's more about this rhythm and playing around with this rhythm. So I'm thinking the form will be Quinn and I will start and let us play around a little bit, and then sax and trumpet whenever you feel you want. You come in with your quote unquote clave, and then we'll kind of go into some sort of rhythmic disorder I put here. So we have been kind of applying some disorder to rhythm and time and pulse, but maybe if we can make it even further out there, and maybe that's when, yeah, maybe sax and trumpet are playing more percussive and shorter notes and things like that. So any some sort of chaotic thing going on here. And maybe in this area it's okay to steer away from F minor because we do want to create some sort of disorder, but I'd rather the disorder to be more rhythmic than melodic or harmonic. And then Quinn and I will go back to something that's, I'm not going to say more structured, but we'll go back to the vibe of the A, and immediately it'll go into, that'll be the first time we hear trombone, and she'll just begin a solo. And let her solo a little bit. Remember, these aren't your typical solos where they're 5 minutes long, so the backgrounds can come in, after a minute or so, because maybe the solo is going to be 2 minutes at most, 3 minutes at most, I'd say. All these cuentos are pretty short, should be pretty short. So the trumpet and sax can very quietly underneath go ahead and do what they were doing during the B section. And then the idea is to kind of like sum it up, is that we all kind of make it obvious that we're playing around with the cascara. Not necessarily that we're playing it all together, but it'll be pretty obvious after, during a trombone solo, then all of a sudden she's kind of playing this rhythm-ish. And since the trumpet and sax have been playing this elongated, expanded clave, and I think it'll be more obvious when they play eighth note-ish type notes with the cascara, and we'll kind of jam that together and kind of like stretch and shrink time together. Not necessarily always together per se, but we'll see. It should be fun. And then we'll just kind of like find an ending. I don't know if we'll get on board with the rhythm or something, but then I just want to kind of like cue last time and just have like a super dramatic slowing down of the cascara. So for the final time, something like that. And of course, yeah, it doesn't matter, we don't need to worry about what notes we end on, but that's an idea. See if it works. 18, I don't know if you remember 17, but 17 was the one with the shapes, with the bars and a couple triangles, with the microtones, and in us melodic instruments always playing very calmly and softly, and then Quinn very aggressively playing the entire time. So it's a Quinn feature, number 17. And number 18, I basically just want to play the opposite of that, meaning that everyone who's playing chill in 17, trombone, trumpet, sax, and bass, on 18 are going to play a lot more explosive. And then Quinn, even though not the temptation, but the norm, if everyone's blasting, why wouldn't drums be blasting? The idea is to kind of like have a pad underneath of calmness and tranquility. So that's the idea here. Yeah, I'd like to play angrily. And then eventually, let's say after 3 minutes of blasting away, it'll probably be 3 minutes. So probably, maybe it'll be 30 seconds. It depends on the night, really. But maybe it'll be 5 minutes. I think it'll depend on the night. But eventually, I'm going to come in with this groove here underneath all of that. I don't expect Quinn, I don't expect you to be playing time during this. Like brushes here and there and time here and there, but not necessarily playing a groove or time or a certain rhythm or anything. But I will definitely start time. I might not play aggressive at all. I might not play any of this free aggressiveness at all and just wait to come in here at B, which is very likely. And then when I do come in, I'll come in on the and of one. And it's okay, Quinn, if, just if I start this off myself, you're just playing and cymbals, swishing, and things of that nature. And then, I don't have an amp, sorry, but. but it'll be slower. And then the idea is that you guys, the melodic instruments, the soloist, you will be playing noise-free shit, aggressive disgust on top of this as I come in. But very, very, very gradually start to solo over the changes, still aggressive. As you start to solo over the changes, less aggressive and more melodic over the changes. And then eventually playing along with me with this exact rhythm. And what I would prefer is only to keep root fifths and thirds, root thirds and fifths here. Yeah, so we'll do that as soon as everyone's on board with this together. Playing as smoothly and with nice tone as possible. I will cue last time through B, and you guys will kind of like, So you'll stay on the E flat, fade it out, and then I will play a final. And also notice, so this C minor comes on the end of one, the B flat comes on. If you notice, I didn't actually tie these together. I just drew that to make it more obvious that this B flat starts on the end of one. So I don't actually want these tied, just was a visual here. Same with this D minor. This E flat comes on the end of two. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. Cool. Can't wait to try these with you guys. Thanks. Bye.